Hi, shalom friends. If you've ever been in a blackout, you know how disconcerting it is. I mean, the familiar surroundings disappear, and without knowing what's in front of you, what's in back of you, what's on the side of you, you really feel lost, disoriented. And if you reflect upon it for a minute, it's pretty strange. We have 5 senses, and 4 of them are perfectly working perfectly. So the lights go out, we could still smell, we could hear, we could taste, we could touch, but without actually seeing what's around us and outside of us, we're lost. So light is warm, it's inviting, it reveals. Yet, light can also conceal. Well, let me explain. If you're going on vacation for an extended time, you don't want to advertise to the neighborhood thieves that you're not home. So everyone suggests that you should have the lights go on and off at different times, stagger it. So if a thief is passing by and he sees lights on in the house, he'll assume that someone is there. But there is no one there. So the lights are meant to actually deceive. You know, we have a place in America quite famous. It's the Strip in Las Vegas. Can you imagine its attraction if all of the lights went out? No one would go. When they say jokingly, what goes on in Vegas stays in Vegas, what they don't tell you is it's your money. There are, sadly, so many people have lost life savings and they left it in Vegas. Why would they go to such a place? Because there's all kinds of glittering lights that advertise and say, come, this is the place where you'll have a great time. Take a look at stores, entertainment. It's all about lights, glittering lights, inviting lights, bright lights. You know, if we took it from a slightly different perspective, if you want to disorient a prisoner in the countries which are not very nice, they'll actually keep on the lights in the cell. So the natural rhythm of the body, that there has to be darkness and a time to go to bed, and is completely thrown off kilter. And when they do an interrogation, it's not always in a dark, dim room with one small light. Very often you're facing a person and there's a bright light in your face. So here we have 2 aspects of light, where light orients us, where light directs us, where light is comforting. And then we also have the falseness of light, the deceit of light. Well, if you think about going out of Egypt, we know that going out of Egypt meant the geography. Long time ago, over 3,000 years ago, we were a people enslaved in a country called Egypt, and God took us out with spectacular miracles. And then, as the sages of Israel teach us, there's a spiritual Egypt, something that holds us back and confines us from growth, which still remains today. Consequently, the lessons that and the occurrences that took place in Egypt of old and was necessary for it as a prelude and as a preparation for the Exodus, those very same miracles and plagues that took place then are necessary for us to experience, and I'll explain that in a minute, in order for us to go out of our spiritual Egypt. So let's look at, there were 10 plagues. The 10th plague was a punishment that God himself brought. He himself killed the firstborn. The 9th plague, in other words, the last lesson that the Jewish people had to learn and the Egyptians had to suffer was the plague of darkness. So I would like to read into this. The Jewish people, as slaves for many, many generations, how do you think they looked at the culture of Egypt? Perhaps we could say they saw light. I mean, after all, there was physical beauty, there was physical riches, there was ingenuity, there was magic, there was idolatry, there was spirituality. The lights were very bright. And what did they have? Traditions from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. As if to say, the bright lights were outside. And in their home, it was dim. What happened before they leave Egypt, God brings a plague. For 6 days, Egypt is plunged into absolute darkness. Now, obviously, this is a terrifying moment for the Egyptians. There's no artificial light. There's no even sunlight. It's just pure darkness, and we cannot even imagine living like that for 6 days. But perhaps there's also a spiritual message. In order for the Jewish people to actually be motivated and excited to leave this powerful country, they had to be exposed to the truth. The Egyptians, they're living in darkness. Only then did they realize, as the Bible says, but in the dwelling place of the Hebrews, there was light. Let me bring this down to today. We look at the glitz and glamour of Hollywood, the bright lights of maybe Madison Avenue, of Wall Street, of exotic vacations. There's a lot of very exciting, glittering, flickering, colored lights out there. And often when it comes to that holiday at the end of December, an American kid sometimes feels, all we do is light candles, but look at them. They have so many beautiful lights, the holiday spirit. But we have to remember, not all that glitters is gold. There's a real darkness when the lights go out. What remains? By us, we have the light in our house. It's the light of Torah. It's the light of family. It's the light of tradition. It's the light of wisdom. It's a godly light. Very often we don't appreciate it because there's so much false light out there. What we have to remember to leave Egypt is that ultimately the light that we have has always been in our own home. We don't have to look elsewhere. In the land of Egypt, it was dark. In the land of Goshen and in the houses of Israel, it was light. I want to end with a poignant story where perhaps we could read into how darkness actually brings out the light. This story happened in Israel. It was recorded in first person, so I'll say it in the first person. His name is Shmuel. He's a yeshiva boy studying in one of the advanced institutions of Israel where the rigorous study of Talmud is encouraged and lauded. You know, some people like to go to coffee shops. Well, the yeshiva boys, when they have a little time, they love to browse in a Judaica store which sells holy books. So he has a couple of hours off, so this Shmuel comes into a Sepharim store, a bookstore in Bnei Brak, and he says to the proprietor, "Which is the section of Talmud?" He says, "Go to the east. There are 6 shelves of Talmudic writings." And he goes. He's not the only one there. There are other boys that are like browsing. It's beautiful. People they open up a book, they read it for a couple of minutes, they close it. They want to find a book that talks to them. As Shmuel is doing opening and closing the books, he notices that there's a middle-aged fellow who's acting uncharacteristically in a bookstore. He's not browsing. He's not looking at any of the books. Instead, he seems to be looking at the customers. He thought that was quite odd. Anyway, he found another book, and he started to read it and didn't pay any attention for the next 10 minutes. And he closes the book, and he notices that guy seems to be staring at him, feeling a little bit uncomfortable. Anyway, finally, after 40 minutes, he finds a book that he likes, and he closes the thing. He's like, "Okay, I'm ready." He says it out loud to himself, and he walks over to the counter, and he gives it to the owner, and the owner says, 62 shekels, and he's about to take out his wallet to pay the 62 shekels, when suddenly he hears a voice, "I'll pay for it." And he looks around, and it's that middle-aged fellow who's standing right next to him. He didn't even realize that he had followed him to the counter. So Shmuel turns and I says, "It's okay, I could pay for it." And he says, no, please allow me to pay for it. So now this is becoming really odd. So Shmuel says, "Why do you want to pay for my book? I could pay for it." And he said something very interesting. He said, "I'm blind. I cannot study. But if I will pay for a book of Torah and you will study, then I will have a little bit of a share in your study." This touched Shmuel very deeply. He allowed the man to pay for the book. And after the man leaves, the proprietor tells him, "You're not the first one." He comes often, and when there's a yeshiva student that's ready to buy a Hebrew Judaic book, he actually pays for it and tells them exactly what he told you. So this Shmuel then says, whenever he took out the book to study, even if ordinarily he would close it after 20 minutes or a half hour, he would always think about that man who couldn't study and asked him to study, and he would add another couple of minutes. So this man's darkness actually increased in Shmuel's light. It's about time that we were proud and shared the light. Don't be impressed with Hollywood. Hollywood will study and learn and be inspired if we only opened up the shutters and shared the light. Shalom.